May I now request Professor D. Balasubramaniam, eminent personality in his field, and may I record our thanks once again. His acceptance of our invitation to come here was immediate. Thank you, sir.
Friends, about 1945, immediately after the Second World War was over, colonialism formally came to an end. Suddenly, about 60 or 70 nations were formed. New countries with old traditions and so on. Among all these 60 plus countries, India was the only one, just one, that decided that they will take the path of science and technology for national good. I think it's something very remarkable. Pakistan didn't do it, Nepal didn't do it, all of Africa, all of Southeast Asia and so on. And yet, I think it is India that decided that the growth, development, and the welfare of the people of our country rests solidly if we were to make friends with science. And I think that's something quite remarkable. There's something not very new, because I want to read one thing against the background of these. A statement has been made long ago. Do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it. Do not believe anything simply because it's spoken and rumored by many. Do not believe simply because it's found written in your religious books. Do not believe anything merely on the authority of your teachers and elders. Do not believe in traditions because they have been handed down for many generations. But after observation and analysis, when you find anything agrees with reason and is conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, then accept and live up to it. This was written and said in the 6th century BC in India by Lord Buddha. So we had that kind of a tradition that we had to live up with. Reason. More recently, about 115 years ago, Tagore wrote, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by deed into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom. This is what Tagore wrote in 1901, poem 35 of his Gitanjali. All of us scientists and rationalists are Buddhists. All of us scientists and rationalists are also Tagoreans. So it's against this background, I think that Pandit Nehru decided that India must make friends with science. Nothing very new, it has been in our tradition. I think that's very important. And yet today there is a debate between ancient science and Indian science, modern science. Indian science versus Islamic science versus Western science and so on. Utter nonsense. Where the clear stream of reason should not lose its way. Right? That's important. Mythology, religious books have a role to play because they also give you ideas for imagination. When Mr. Modi said that plastic surgery resulted in Ganesha. I think he actually insulted Lord Ganesha by reducing him to a mere mortal. However, when Hanuman went at speed next speed with a mountain in his head, in his hand, and with the herb to treat, that again, just like the case of plastic surgery of Ganesha, or the stem cell results of the Kauravas and so on, is a leap in imagination, not reality. Many of you have read people like Clark or many of the science fiction writers. It was left to Arthur Clarke to say, if only I can have a lift or an elevator to take me to space. Remember, it's a flight of fancy. Today, we don't have that lift that takes you, but we have something that takes you. Likewise, do we have any way that we can correspond with extraterrestrial objects and so on? We now seem to have suggestive ways of doing that. And one biologist, doctor, actually said the best way to let anyone across the world, across the universe to know that we here on Earth are around and alive and creative is to simply play music. He suggested that we play Johann Sebastian Bach. I suggest that we play Emma Subbulakshmi. Then the external world will know. This is the regular idea, that we don't simply throw away what has been written, but you don't believe it either. What you do is look for reason in that. Imagination does lead to a variety of new ideas. Imagination is just imagination. That confusion should not arise. This, I think, is very important. The moment Prime Minister Modi said that in the Indian Science Congress, a lot of hullabaloo went around the scientists. And we actually had to write something about that. About 115 scientists wrote out a letter on behalf of the scientific community, and I want to read that. Because anyone who says that's not true is thought to be intolerant. It's the other way around. It's the same climate of intolerance and rejection of reason that led to the lynching in Dadri of Muhammad Akhlaq Saifi, the assassination of Professors Kalburgi, Davolkar, and Govind Pansare. All three fought against superstition and obscurantism to build a scientific temple in our society. Professor Kalburgi was a renowned scholar and an authority on the Vachana literature associated with the 12th century reformer Basava, who opposed religion, caste, and gender discrimination. What do we have today? Religion, caste, gender discrimination. Similarly, Dhabolkar and Pansare promoted the scientific temper through their fight against superstition and blind faith. The Indian Constitution demands, as a part of the fundamental duties of citizens, that we develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. Unfortunately, what we are witnessing is not just the government's abdication of this responsibility, but also the active promotion of irrational and sectarian thought by its important functionaries. Indian civilization is a truly plural one. We have always had many practices and community that have allowed space for each other. We celebrate the festivals and anniversaries of all faiths. This unity and peace has now been disturbed by a rash of bigoted acts that show no signs of abating. The writers have shown the way with their protests. This we wrote more like about October or so. We scientists now join in our voices to theirs. To assert that the Indian people will not accept such attacks on reason, science, and our plural culture. We reject the destructive, narrow view of India that seeks to dictate what people will wear, think, eat, and who they will love. We appeal to all other sections of society to raise their voice against the assault on reason and scientific temper we are witnessing today. This letter went to the Prime Minister, also to the President of India. We still await any kind of a response. I suspect we will not get a response, but I think we should not lose our reason. I think it's important. There are various ways of fighting this. Tomorrow if somebody says, yes, Hanuman did fly, I'll simply have to quote Buddha. Or call on Karl Popper's principles of falsifiability and verifiability. Philosophy of science rests just on these, and anything that is not so will not be so. Just about a month and a half ago, we detected what Einstein suggested as a possibility. Einstein himself was in doubt whether gravity will come out as waves or what. And yet, 100 years later, it was possible for us to do so. 32 Indian scientists were involved in this huge 1,000-team project. They have been asking for funds. Again, I think what Hamid said is right. This is not just Modi, this is not just the present government. It's been a government after government. Somewhere along the line, we seem to have lost the clear stream of reason. Funding for important areas of education, science and technology, agriculture, women and child welfare are lost. We need to fight for that. Last year alone, it was on one hand found that 35% of newborn children in India will be stunted by the time they are 5. It was also found that the number of pregnant women who die in India is larger in terms of percentage than the number you see in certain parts of Africa. These are alarming situations, not only for the present, for the future. And yet, what did the government do last year? 3,800 crores were chopped off from the Women and Child Development Ministry. The minister is a lady. What an irony. This year again, a similar thing has happened. The amount of money that has actually gone on for the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research has plummeted. Even during the UPA government in 2012-13 and 13-14, it was suggested to the directors of the 37 CSIR laboratories. CSIR started, some of the labs started even before India started as an independent nation. The directors were told 35% of your budget is cut. You had to find money from elsewhere, and several laboratories had to pay their salaries. Forget about the research. Salaries of their employees from what is called extra sources, which means from the industry, from patents and this kind of thing. At a time when you actually need to have more money, just to stay put where you are, not to advance. Because I think this year it's been suggested for the next 2 years you have to manage your own budget. After that, the government will not support research in the CSIR laboratories. They will become self-financing institutions. Chopping off a budget of science and technology, chopping off of the budget from women and child development welfare situation, chopping off PhD scholarship. That's the latest in the assault on reason. One more. Starting 1970s, there's been a remarkable progress in understanding the nutritional status of ordinary Indians. Professor C. Gopalan was one of the founders of the National Institute of Nutrition in Hyderabad, and his team came out with a remarkable book. It's called The Nutritive Value of Indian Foods. In the morning I eat 2 idlis and have 1 cup of coffee. What's the amount of protein I had? What's the amount of carbohydrates I had? What's the vitamins, minerals, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This was actually listed out, item by item. If I have bajre ki roti compared to genu ki roti, do I have to be a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian? What is the nutritive value of Indian foods is a Bible in my home. Every time you look at what is it that you're eating, what you should plan on eating and so on, this book comes in handy. In addition to that, Dr. Gopalan and his group also decided that they will actually do a monitoring. It is called the Nutrition Monitoring Bureau, one that looks at what do people in Meghalaya eat, what do people in Kutch eat, Kashmir, or let's say in Tirunelveli and so on. And let's monitor and see how we can assess it, help it and so on. The National Nutrition Monitoring Bureau was chopped off last year. These are crimes against reason, against science, against technology, against welfare. If we don't talk about this, we'll be in for very bad times. Lastly, I want to talk about this issue of sedition. My friend, the doctor, many of you remember Dr. Vinayak Sen, or is he past history? Vinayak Sen graduated from CMC Vellore, decided that he'll actually go in Chhattisgarh, I mean, right in the border of Chhattisgarh, and decided that he will help out people. That, of course, was a Naxal boundary and so on. And for a doctor, it doesn't matter if you are a Naxalite or a BJP or whatever. You have a problem, I'll solve that problem. I'll attempt to solve the problem. The government threw a case on him on sedition. Several of us opposed it. Nothing happened. Then some of us, on behalf of the Science Academy panel, decided we will write to the UN Commission, to the President of India, the Prime Minister of India at that time was Dr. Manmohan Singh, pushed outstanding scholars and important scientists in India, such as Professor Siddiqui, Professor C.N.R. Rao, Professor Amartya Sen, and so on, to write to the government to take care of this problem. All that we could succeed at that time was to get the court advance the case, and the court, all that it did was give him bail. Dr. Vinayak Sen is still on bail. His sedition case is not solved. There are more cases on people on sedition than we can think in terms of. We need to worry about this. I want to stop by essentially revoking again the situation, what all we had and what we have come to, essentially in terms of science, technology, agriculture, education, medicine. India has all the available talent for handling a very large number of problems that afflict the Indians. If only we had the freedom, we had the support of the government, of the industry, we can do so. I also want to remind, this is a city of industrialists. There are people in this city who are richer than the government of India. They don't spend a rupee on science and technology. There are no foundations like the Rockefeller or the Keck or whatever foundation. So let's not just blame the government. Let's also worry about significant citizens of India. Thank you.